In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to maximize your qualifying performance in F1 24. This video isn't just about making you faster on the track, but how to improve your tyre warm-up procedure, how to select the right amount of fuel when going out for your qualifying lap, and how to use your battery efficiently once you're on the lap as well. With that being said, let's jump into the heart of the video and straight into the action. So as you can see, we're here on Singapore. The reason I picked Singapore for this video is the tyre management is very difficult on this track, both on the tyre warm-up procedure and ensuring that you don't overheat the tyres on the lap as well. Additionally, the battery management is quite difficult, as with the track modifications that came in the last few years, you of course have the low speed corners that you want to be using the overtake button out of, but with the high speed sector 3 it's quite easy to overindulge by using the battery early in the lap and then have very little to use later on in the sector 3. We'll get into that later in the video and give a more detailed analysis and breakdown to that point later on, but starting with the most simple points, and that's going to be the tyres and fuel. Starting with the tyres, you always want to be selecting the soft compound tyre in F1 24. You can have the option to go to the medium compound tyre, but to be honest, from all my time on this game, I've not found a situation that the medium is better than the soft in a qualifying lap. So keep it simple and just go for the soft compound tyre, and that will be very nice for your qualifying. So now talking about tyre temperature, something that isn't really known publicly on F1 24 on how to get the tyres into the operating window. Unfortunately, I can't share all of my information on the tyres just because I have my F1 esports commitments next week and I can't share data and information that myself and the team have gathered for months to try and get the optimal performance going onto a qualifying lap. But I am going to try and do my best to share information that I can share with you to maximize your performance as well. A really easy way to find good tyre temperatures to use on your qualifying lap per circuit on F1 24 is to do a straight to flying lap in the GP mode of the game. The reason for this is, as you can see now, we're going to be taking over from the AI. It is going to give us the optimal tyre temperatures from the AI prediction. As you can see now on the bottom left hand side of your screen, we have 80 degrees on the tyre temperature. That is what the AI deems to be the optimal tyre temperature for the qualifying lap here in Singapore, and that gives you a really good opportunity to understand on what level you need to warm up your tyres to. You can do this on every single track, on every single circuit, and then you can instantly find out where the AI drive their tyre temperatures to, and then you can use that as a baseline to find your optimal performance in qualifying as well. So let's jump in to a outlap, and now I'm going to show you how you would build up to 80 degrees appropriately, efficiently, and to maximize your performance. So now we are back in the garage. Of course, we're going to select a new set of tyres just because we used 4% by letting the AI drive for a little while before. In the garage, you can see we've got 4 kg of fuel selected, and now we're going to be going to flying lap out of the garage and aiming for the 80 degrees on the tyre temperature on the outlap. Key things to note before going out on track is you really want to be keeping your engine mode in standard, because if you let your engine temperature drop too much, it will cost you performance. Coming out of the pit lane, you can see we have 70 degrees on the tyres, and now just make sure there isn't a car around us. We can start building up that temperature efficiently. One thing you can do to instantly start building front tyre temperature is putting the brake bias more forward, and you can see we put the brake bias to 70%, and we're going to be dragging the brake pedal, get out of the way of Hulkenberg. You can see we're dragging the brake pedal, and what that is doing is putting temperature into the brake disc, and that subsequently is putting temperature into the carcass of the tyre and allowing me to be stable with my tyre temp. It's had a massive downgrade from F1 23. On F1 23, this was a really powerful way to warm up your tyres, but now it is a very subtle way to warm up your tyres, but effective nevertheless, and something that I use quite frequently on my outlaps in F1 24 if I need to get front tyre temperature. How to get tire temperature more normally though is just simply by doing these little weaves about 50% throttle, and you can see we're able just to build up that temperature already to 76 on the front left. You can see we're just being very smooth the wheel, transferring the load from right to left and just building up that temperature as we go. It's not absolutely critical that every single tire is at 80 degrees, but you just want to focus on not scrubbing the tire too hard, and you can start building up the temperature efficiently. As you get closer to the lap, you can start putting the brake bias more rearward. Sorry, sorry, Verstappen. And you can see now we're able to build up the tires so that we're almost at 80 degrees and just starting the lap. It's not going to be a full qualifying lap, but this is just an example of how now starting the lap we can have 80 degrees on the front right tire, 80 degrees on the rear right tire, and 78 on the rear left. Of course, that front left tire is going to be harder to warm up around Singapore, as there's not as many turns that can provide load to that front left tire to build the temperature. If you are drastically wanting to get temperature into your front tires especially, we're going to try and let the cars go so I don't crash into any more people. Okay, Alonso's going to wait for us. You can just be very aggressive with weaving the steering wheel like this and building the surface temperature. Almost hit another AI there. And building the surface temperature by doing very aggressive steering wheel movements like this, and that can allow you to build up the temperature, but that has a drastic effect to your tire wear, and by doing that you will build up a lot of front deg, what can cause negative understeer during your qualifying lap. You don't really want to be doing the opposite on the rear tires. You do not want to be doing burnouts like this, as simply that will add a lot of spinning. So, stay with me now. It will add a lot of spinning, and it will add a lot of rear deg to the rear tires, and it's not really going to be worth it. The easiest way to get rear tire temperature is simply by just driving flat out on the straight, or driving fast down the straight as well, as that will build up a lot of residual temperature while having minimal effect to your tire wear. The next point in this video is going to be about how to use your battery in a qualifying lap. To keep it simple, I'm not going to be telling you to use the hot lap mode, otherwise you're changing a million buttons per qualifying lap. We're going to be keeping it in medium and the overtake mode as well. Key things to watch out for in your qualifying lap is using the overtake before the lap, and then that can allow you to build a good momentum. Of course, in this example, we're just going to keep medium throughout the lap. But what you're looking to do at the end of the lap is have your battery percentage as low as possible. But even more importantly, if you see that green bar that is going down in the middle of the screen, that is how much battery deployment you have left to use in terms of the overall allocation for the lap. The battery percentage is, of course, how much energy is stored in the battery, but that green bar is how much power you can legally be allowed to use in the rest of your lap. Of course, because it's a game, as soon as you go over that limit, you can't use any more. I'm going to show you what happens if you go over that green bar and why you really don't want to do it, and we're just going to be holding the overtake button for the rest of the lap. Just to show you, basically, as you can see, as we're using the overtake button, that green bar is draining drastically, very, very, very fast. Using the overtake button down the straight now, and as soon as that green bar has been fully used and we have no allocation left, that basically means we are not going to have the battery ERS deployment power for the rest of the lap. You can see now deployment has been used, and once deployment has been used, we have no battery power, what means we're missing somewhere like 150 horsepower, if not more, from the battery deployment of the car. So in a key lesson there, what you want to be doing as you get throughout your qualifying lap is you want that green bar to be as low as possible towards the end of the lap as you go over the start finish line. If you can get it so that bar is only just running out as you go over the start finish line to finish your qualifying lap, you know that you've got your battery deployment pretty much perfect for that lap. And that is what F1 esports engineers and drivers are mainly looking at in trying to be as efficient as possible by using the maximum allocated allowed usage of the battery going throughout the lap. That is the main criteria and how you can maximize it going forward. So now we'll jump into another example and how to be efficient with it. So now going into another example, now that I've told you the basics of understanding how that green bar works, the reason you want to be using overtake before starting the line, as it's just a reset allocation as you go over the start finish line. So you can see we can use overtake button for free before starting the lap, and that means we get a free boost of basically power before even starting the lap, and that's why it's powerful to do. When using the overtake button and an ERS strategy during the lap, you basically want to be using your overtake button until like 6th gear roughly per corner exit. That can be a good guideline to be using. Of course, if you're coming out of like smaller straights like here for example, you can maybe just hold it for like a second or two, but you don't need to be holding it all the way in to 6th gear. A key rule of thumb is the longer the straight, the more you want to be using the overtake button starting the straight, of course. So as you can see, at the moment, we're not really using the overtake button for that long in this situation going throughout these corners. You can see we're just tapping it and holding it for like 1-2 seconds at a time. But as now we get to the final sector, we have longer straights and more potential to use the overtake button. You can see we're even using it in some cases up to 6th, 7th gear and holding it to its maximum potential going down the straight. You can see now this is leading us onto a decent battery strategy. Of course, I've not practiced Singapore too much on this game as there's been no league racing here for me. But you can see already immediately by using the strategy of getting that green bar as low as possible, we're able to be very efficient with it and have the bar really, really low as we came across the start-finish line. So that's my strategy on how I use the battery, and hopefully, if I get my words correctly, hopefully that can be helpful to you at home as well. The next area that we're going to be looking at is how we can improve on our lap time previously and maximize our performance going forward. Really, that just comes from within, and that basically is a thought process during your in-lap in qualifying to think about, okay, let's look at this track map now. Right, turn 1, probably I could have carried a bit more minimum speed. Corner 3 was pretty good. And having a thought process during your in-lap as well as when you're in the garage to take a look at the track map and say, well, corner 3 was pretty good, but corner 1 I could have carried more speed. So on my next qualifying lap, what I'm going to focus to do is just carrying more mid-corner speed through corner 1, keeping the same approach that I did through corner 3, and doing that process over and over and over again. So as you go out for your next qualifying lap, you have a clear and objective ability to sort of say, well, turn 1 I want to improve, turn 4 I want to improve, turn 10 I want to improve, and then by doing that you can set your targets and how you want to improve as well, and then once you are on the flying lap, then you can maximize your ability. To go into an example, we'll show you on track right now. So now that I've thought about where I want to improve on track, I'm going to be targeting carrying more minimum speed in corner 1. I know my corner 3 is already pretty good, so what I'm going to do is now take the same approach with the battery, the same strategy, but now search to carry more minimum speed through turn 1. And now you can see we've been able to do that. It was a pretty decent turn 1, not perfect. But by doing that clear objective, that means we've been able to gain half a tenth on our delta already on our steering wheel at the bottom of the screen. And just by having this thought process on knowing where I want to improve, even before I've started my qualifying lap, it knows that my key objectives during the lap are, and I know where I'm searching to get better. If you don't know where you want to improve, how can you expect yourself to improve? And that is something that I really try to carry forward with me during my driving and during my racing as well. That if I do not have a target and I do not have a clear identified area on where to improve, quite simply, how can I expect myself to improve? So, with that being said, this has been my video on how you can improve your qualifying performance, maximize yourself, and going through these sort of 5 steps and how hopefully you're going to get better in your qualifying laps as well. So that being said, sorry to Verstappen earlier in the video for completely destroying his qualifying lap, But thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Grazie, thank you so much for watching. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.